This is an alpaca. It's the cutest animal in the world. But before I get into this part of the story, let's start from the beginning. The New Zealand Blog. Chapter 1. Tour Bus. My brother and I decided to start our first morning in New Zealand by going on a long walk. We'd arrived in Auckland the night before, and after a good night's rest, neither of us was suffering from jet lag. This walk was merely our first adventure in New Zealand, but I treasure it as one of the best. My brother and I don't speak much, but on this walk we spoke about the people, the place, the trees, their leaves, about just how quiet the place was, and then participating in that quietness. All this while I learned how to use my new camera, of course.
Testing out the new camera. Seems to be pretty freaking amazing.
How lost are we? Think so?
My brother led us back to the hotel and boom, we were off in a tour bus to see some local sights. This annoyed me slightly. I don't like sightseeing because this isn't how I like to see new places. I want to be out there, walking and exploring the city, not viewing it through the tinted glass of a tour bus window. But we'll get back to this later. The first place we visited was the docks, where we saw a bunch of local fishermen catching their daily meal with their families. Then we drove somewhere over and reached the Auckland Sky Tower. We then went up the tower, and my brother's fear of heights kicked in. To be fair, it was pretty high. I took a bunch of photos, we went back down, and then went for a quick lunch, which is where I should introduce the rest of my travel crew. My brother, Sachin, my father, Pa, my mother, Ma, and their friends Shashi Uncle and Hema Aunty. You'll get to know them. And yeah, that was our first day in Auckland. Day 2 was kind of more of the same. We got into a bus, drove out of Auckland to the countryside to visit the Waitomo Caves. These caves were formed by underground riverines, and what makes these caves special is that the ceilings and walls are inhabited by glowworms. These worms secrete a trail of sticky lines to catch their prey. But we weren't allowed to film in the caves, so this isn't my footage. The experience was beautiful, but kinda short, so I decided to go on a little hike where I continued to fiddle with my new camera.
Right, hello there, ladies and gentlemen. We're testing out the new vlogging camera setup. I'm currently walking down a trail at the Waitomo Caves. And yeah, the camera looks pretty good, I'm not gonna lie. You know what I mean? It looks pretty good. So I'm just trying to get used to, holding onto this new camera. I can see myself, I can control the light. It's amazing.
I don't know if you can tell, but I was very excited about my new camera. We stopped for lunch at a ranch and took some badass photos, and then headed back to Auckland. The day had been kind of uneventful, but later that night, after some dinner and tequila, we had a fun walk back home. In 2 days in New Zealand, walks were starting to become the highlight of my trip. And playing with my new camera, of course.
Alright, this is me walking down the streets of New Zealand in the middle of the night.
However, I wasn't the only one vlogging.
We're having the walk the talk.
Walk talk.
I am doing a video. I'm doing a video show.
We got 2 vloggers here.
Oh, good. one is
Savage Mom.
for 1.5 itself. You guys are so cool. So,
Shashi Uncle with the comeback. Hema Aunty rebuttal. And with that, we reached our hotel and went to bed. Day 3 began where the night had left off. Another walk. Today, we were flying to a different town, and I had a couple of hours to spare before our tour bus left to the airport, so I decided to walk down to the botanical garden. I reached the garden and it was truly blissful. I'd left a lot of work back in Bombay to come to New Zealand, and it had been dwelling on my mind. But for the first time, I forgot about it, dude. The Domain Winter Garden, the sign said. I was intrigued. I entered the glass house. It was kept at a low temperature and high humidity to host a variety of rainforest species. I took a moment to sit down and collect my thoughts and came to a very profound conclusion. Holy shit, I was late, I had to leave. As I was leaving, I noticed on the other side there was another glass house, the Summer Garden. If the first was built for contemplation, this was built for elation.
It's so pretty. Oh my god.
I don't know how, but I forced myself to leave.
Ishka Baba. Put it on out of focus. Hello guys, welcome to another disparate episode in the New Zealand counterpart series that's happening simultaneously with my Mumbai vlog. I'm currently walking down a park in Auckland. I'm just at the garden over there. It's called the Winter Garden. I'm super late. We have a flight to catch. So yeah, I should be running and not vlogging. So I'm gonna do that.
So I ran back to the hotel, got on a plane, got in a bus, got in a cable car, and before we knew it, we were in Queenstown. As you can see, Queenstown is beautiful. So while taking a bunch of portraits, my brother and I kinda got lost from the crowd.
You can receive calls now.
And when we finally found our parents, well,
The face of disappointed parents wondering why we're holding up the entire crowd.
Savage Sachin!
We can't find the place.
We spent the rest of the day wandering around the town watching the sunset. It was so lively and joyous in Queenstown. But we had a long day awaiting us, so we went to bed early.
Well, good morning guys. It's another day in beautiful New Zealand. I'm a fake British tourist walking down the streets and we're gonna look at our little lake, aren't we?
Well, no, unnecessarily British Nikhil from the past. We weren't going to visit a lake, we were going to visit a fjord called Milford Sound. I'll tell you about that once we get there, but first, we had a long bus journey ahead of us. Through plains and hills, we drove somewhere over the rainbow, to where it suddenly became overcast and the rain began to fall. Perfect sleep weather. And so I slept for a few hours and woke to this. Eglinton Valley. This was just one of the pit stops on the way to Milford Sound, but man, it was beautiful. As we stood and watched the clouds dance across the hills, Shashi uncle shared this gem of wisdom with me.
If you come in between nature, nature will not speak, you will be only speaking, so he says.
A gentle reminder to live in the moment and to embrace nature when we get the chance. I walked back to the bus, and soon we were on our way to the next pit stop, the Mirror Lakes. I walked down the boardwalk and I was about to film the lakes when I noticed something a lot more beautiful. My parents. Aww.
Over here we have two Indian parents posing for a photo but getting a video.
The lakes were pristine, the air crisp. There was life everywhere I looked, thriving. Back on the bus and on to the next pit stop, Monkey Creek. The water here is so pure, people were filling their bottles with it. It was kinda cold and the rain was starting to fall, so I turned to leave. And then I saw this. This is a weka, a rare flightless bird native to New Zealand. And I just spotted one in the wild. My favorite thing in the world is to see an animal I've never seen before, and to see it in its home in the wild. I was ecstatic. I was walking back to the bus to tell my family when I saw this. These little guys are called kea. They're like giant New Zealand parrots. Another bird I'd never seen before. Content, back on the bus, and we were on our way finally to Milford Sound. Fjord. Noun. A long narrow inlet of the sea with steep sides or cliffs created by a glacier. Milford Sound is a fjord. And this is Milford Sound. When you see things like this, it's difficult to put them into words. Thousands of waterfalls streaming down from cliffs that disappeared into the sky. It was breathtaking. And if that wasn't enough, then came rainbows. Everyone was gasping in awe. The cliffs were almost vertical but still full of life. The clouds embracing them at the top cast huge shadows at the bottom. As we neared the end of the fjord, the waters became rough. And for just a moment, I was reminded of the other people on our ship. And just how happy everyone was to be careless, carefree, and clumsy in the comfort of Mother Nature's lap. We turned one final cliff, and lo and behold, we had reached the end of the fjord. Beyond was endless sea. This is where I end chapter 1 of our New Zealand trip. In this part of the journey, I learned to appreciate the little things. To just take a breath and live in the moment. To embrace every single opportunity, even if it is through the tinted glass of a tour bus window. Now we move on to chapter 2. But first,
Oh, you're so cute. Hi, little boy. Come on, boy. Oh, you're so cute.
we had stopped at this ranch for lunch on our way back to Queenstown, and these little guys put a smile on every single person's face. And I hope this film put a smile on yours.
Since you came along, you sexy man.
Do take a moment to appreciate your life and everyone and everything around you. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in chapter 2.